Morning guys, Ash and Justin back on the couch. For this episode, we're going to be talking about confidence, how to build your confidence, how to be more confident in your daily interactions.
Yeah, I, for many, many years, was not a confident person. I've got this like embarrassing memory of being on a train from Cardiff, where I grew up, to London once, and dropping the lid off my soft drink and being so scared to pick it up because I thought people would laugh at me for dropping my drink. And I was probably in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And it's taken a long time to become confident, but I think there's some really good tips and tricks that you can pick up along the way to get you there.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think that experience of you being, I guess, embarrassed or not confident to pick up a lid, it's a nothing, isn't it? Like, it's something that you would almost laugh at now.
Totally.
But I think everyone out there, I can definitely relate to situations where you make a mistake, or maybe you're in a peer group that you feel like you need to impress, and that it really zaps your confidence. You're like, you get to the point where it's paralysis. You don't know what to do, and therefore you still look like you're still not confident. You're still not being impressive because you're doing nothing.
Absolutely.
And I think that cues my thought of doing something is better than nothing. So show that you're confident by just taking action. And I think that sort of leads to the rest of this conversation, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And I think I would love to know, because I mean, you've spent many years in the military, and I've had many years in corporate, and there've been times when I've taken on a project and I haven't been particularly confident. Have you gone through it? I mean, looking at you now as somebody who's a seasoned veteran of the military, there must have been times during your career where you didn't feel confident.
Oh, look, I think like weekly. You, particularly in those sort of situations where I walk into a room of very high-end, motivated, potentially intimidating sort of people, that I have to sort of meet that energy, and then depending on what my role is or my position, maybe even go above that. That can be incredibly intimidating, and really, you walk in, you're like, oh, do I deserve to be here? Should I be here? Am I as capable or as competent as these other people? And that comes down to confidence.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ways that I overcame that, and something that we use regularly in the military, and it happens, and you look at actors, as soon as I say the word, you'll think sort of film and actors. It's rehearsal. The way that it would work in my scenario is, if I was in my capacity as an EOD technician or bomb disposal, there's a couple of what we'd call approaches. So I'd go down and I'd see the scenario, the munition, the IED, the whatever it is that's down there. I get an understanding. That's my initial sort of my look. That's me going, okay, I know what's here. I'm not going to touch anything. I'm not going to play with anything. I'm going to go back and I'm going to rehearse what I do before I do it.
Yeah.
So I can then go down and be confident and go, right, I know what it is. I don't have to get down there and go, oh, I'm here. Oh, I've got to think now. And sometimes that has to happen, and you have to be technically competent to do that. But the safest way is to go, all right, I understand this. Let's go back. Let's talk through with a sounding board. Do you think I should do this? Maybe I've got a photo while I'm down there. What do you think of this? Their opinion may be completely different to mine.
Yeah.
So I would go through and rehearse it. So the next time I walk down there, boom, I know that I'm going to go down there, I'm going to pull this, I'm going to remove this, I'm going to set up this tool. Again, in another role as an interrogator, I know that I've got a person that I need to get information from, and they don't want to give it to me. So I strategize on how I think is the best way to get that information out of this individual. I will then rehearse. It might be a 1 minute interaction.
Yeah.
It might be a 30-minute interaction. It could be a 24-hour interaction. I'll rehearse every minute of that so that I know that I can walk in there confidently. I will rehearse how they're going to challenge me, what could be rebuttals, all of those things it's been through. So then I walk in super confident that it's less likely that I'm going to have the rug pulled under my feet.
Ash, you have literally just blown my mind. and because I think we were talking about, previously, there's probably a good couple of strategies in here, but preparation did not really come into my thinking.
Yeah.
And you're so right. I've gone into negotiations, not interrogations, negotiations, and I've felt not particularly confident, and I don't, what am I going to do? How's this going to happen? But you're right. The ones that have been the right ones have been the ones that I've prepped for.
Yeah, and it's such a simple tool. You look at something that we do through We Rise Collective is help people with transitions, as veteran transitions, or as people going to with resume writing and to grow themselves into new jobs. Well, if you're going for a job, there's probably going to be an interview, yeah?
Yeah.
So let's sit down and do a mock interview.
Yeah.
Let's go through all the questions that you're expected, and then it's our job for a client to throw in questions that they're not expecting, and how do you react to that?
Absolutely.
So you can walk in and go, there's nothing that these people can ask me that I haven't already have experienced or thought about, and I've got an answer ready to go.
Absolutely. And even if it is something that feels like a curly question, at least you have done some form of prep that you can go back to and center yourself to, rather than just going in completely cold, completely unprimed for that conversation.
Yeah. And I think along the same vein as rehearsing is visualizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Rehearsing generally takes setup, potentially other people involved. Visualizing, you can sit on the couch, you can lie in your bed, you can do it in your car, you can do it in the waiting room, you can do it anywhere. It can take 30 seconds. Okay, just sit there with your eyes closed. What if they ask me this? What am I going to do here? We're both lovers of jiu-jitsu. If I go into a competition, I will have a game plan. I will have often some submissions that I would like to finish with. Doesn't always go that way as you plan it, but I'll often sit there and think, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is the expected sort of, are they a guard puller? Are they going to try and take me down? How am I going to combat that? This is going to be my defense to this. I'm going to move here. All these things can be done in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely. It's funny because I think sometimes visualization, some people sort of say, picture the end goal of you kind of walking out of there victorious.
Yeah.
And that is good.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think, there's like, imagine yourself having done the presentation or the pitch or whatever it is that you've got to do, and it's all gone really well, and that's good.
Yeah.
But I think you've got to also picture yourself going through that process as well.
Yeah.
It's good because exactly to your point, you can do it from the comfort of your own home, from your own mind, and some people talk about having a power pose and all those sort of things. Yeah, great. I think they are good, but I think having some sort of visualization of it going well is a really critical component.
Yeah. And those power poses, like, that's not me. It makes me feel quite uncomfortable that I am going to stand there in this position that's like, and that's not authentic to me.
Yeah.
So that actually zaps my confidence. For some people, it works really well. For others, like me, doesn't work. So you have to really be quite authentic about the way that you do it. You can't pretend to be someone else and get up there and pretend to be super confident if you're not. If you're an introvert, then that's fine. Be that person. You have to be able to still interact with people, but be a bit reserved. Tone it down a little bit. Don't be over the top, and don't try and be an extrovert and tell people how to, because it'll, like it just did then, it shows through.
Yeah, completely. And I think that you can disarm people quite easily in a nice way by sort of saying, I have to say, coming into this, I'm nervous. This job interview or this, this means a lot to me. There's something really like acting with that authenticity and showing that, hey, you know what, like I've come here to do my best, but there is an element of nerves. Most people find that quite endearing. Don't carry a nervousness through it, because actually you owe yourself more than that, and you owe the people that you're spending time with more than that, than to kind of be too timid. But acknowledge how you're feeling, and I think you do yourself a couple of favors. Yeah,
and nerves are a great thing. You will often get your best results when you're nervous. Athletes have talked about it for years. High-end business people, high-end anything.
Yeah.
High-end achievers will talk about, I am best when I go in with a level of nerves. You look at the bell curve of stress, down with no stress, underperform. Over the top stress, underperform. The top level, that sort of peak level, best performances. So celebrate those nerves. It goes to putting yourself in the situation where you've been nervous before. Don't go in for the job of your life or your grand final or whatever if you've never been and put yourself in a hard place. You've never done something hard to elicit that feeling before. Challenge yourself. Do hard things before you do them.
Yeah.
So that you recognize that feeling. You're comfortable with that feeling. You know that, okay, if it's getting too far on that bell curve, I'll stop. I'll visualize. I'll revisit my rehearsals. I might just do some combat breathing or some box breathing just to bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to that point that we were talking about earlier, which is that growth mindset, right? So rather than saying fixed mindset, can't do this, this is for other people, I'm going to be rubbish, I can't do it. Taking that growth mindset into it and sort of having those micro challenges, taking yourself, and we've talked about comfort zones and being uncomfortable in the past, but having that growth mindset and saying, I'm going to give this a go. And if it doesn't work out, hey, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
That's probably a really good way of working through it.
Yeah. And often you hear about no one ever fails, you only learn. It still hurts. It still hurts when you lose or when you fail or you don't get the job or you try and approach a gender of the opposite sex and they turn you down. All these things hurt. And let's not take away from that. That's what we are as humans. But you will learn from them. Those interactions, have a look at yourself, have a look how you felt going into them, during them, coming out of them, and learn from them.
Totally. And it's that piece around practicing failure, isn't it? It's like failure exposure.
Yeah.
And realizing that, like nothing's ever that bad.
No. And if you learn from that, that will build your confidence going into that interaction or a similar interaction in the next time. So nerves, all those sort of things are good things, like practice being confident, because it doesn't come naturally, I think, to many.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily come naturally to me. I would say that I am a confident person, but in the past I definitely haven't been. And still in situations I'm still very much, you would suggest, introverted and reserved and almost fearful. But you have to overcome them because these things still have to be done.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't help but think, I remember when I was in my early years, I keep talking about my pharmaceutical career, right? In my early years, I was quite nervous, going into these surgeries, these accounts, and, I was, God, what am I going to say? They're going to say, leave us alone. But actually, they wanted to see a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
It was really good. And I had to put it on. I had to sort of fake this kind of...
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. A bit of larrikin behaviour, and they loved the cheeky chappy.
Yeah.
Let's get the kettle on and let's sit and have a chat. And it was kind of like their commercial break. And I think people quite enjoy... It's an attractive quality to see that there is a confidence. Not overconfidence, it has to be cocky, but to sort of be comfortable in your own skin, even if inside you're dying, and you walk away and you're de-energized and you got to go and kind of decompress. But try it, practice it.
And that fake it till you make it piece, I think, as we've started this sort of business, your confidence builds as you do it more. Once upon a time we were sitting here and we're quite awkward with each other and sort of, it's hard to go back and forward. Now it's very organic and we're building that confidence. I also thought it's important just to bring up the ability to be assertive, because that is kind of that upper end of confidence, and it's very important.
Yeah, it is.
Depending on the situation and your position and your job role, and if you're a CEO or a manager, then being assertive, even as a bottom of the rung worker.
So true, Ash.
It's important. And with confidence comes the ability to be assertive, and there may be times where you really need to be assertive.
It doesn't feel easy sometimes. So I've worked on confidence, but assertiveness can be elusive to me, a challenge. And I sometimes see it as confrontational. But actually, if you get it right, assertiveness can benefit everybody in the room. Yeah. And it can be a challenge. People will often be on the other end of it and feel challenged by it. But you're right. There's that really fine balancing line of how you approach these things, how you're assertive in saying, hey, I don't think this is going well. Maybe we need to stop and start again. Yeah, agree. So look, in summary, we're talking about being prepared, preparation, do as much as you can in terms of a reconnaissance and sort of think about what that situation is going to be like so that you're not going into it fresh. There's a visualization piece, which is visualize yourself going through the entire process, taking a growth mindset into everything that you do, and practice failure, be comfortable failing.
Don't have that fear of failure. Confidence can be grown.
Excellent.
Nice.